Welcome to another episode of The Giant Leap. Today, we are joined by someone who's built a life and career around purpose, courage, and true alignment. From corporate law to coaching high performance professionals, she has walked away from conventional success to design a life on her own terms. Through her work as a transformational coach speaker, she helps individuals and teams unlock their full potential, not by just climbing the ladder, but making sure the ladder is up against the right wall. This is a conversation about redefining success, breaking through limiting beliefs, and taking ownership of the life you truly want.
Melanie Pritchard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. What a nice introduction. Cracking.
No problem. So tell us a little bit, first of all, about who you are and what you do so that the listeners get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, so as you said, I used to be a divorce lawyer. All sounds quite dark and grisly. Um, Really, I was drawn to that because I love helping people, cheesy as it sounds. And I like the fact that family law spanned like children, finances, property. And I was like, cool, impact, transformation, emotional support. And I like the law because I'm quite academic. But I realized from that work that there were kind of firstly easier ways to make money. Not that money's a core driver, and that I could have a bit more fun and more work-life balance. So I was like, ooh, let's take the best bits of the interests and the skills there. And I read an article about coaching, and it was one of those sort of ding, ding, ding moments where you're like, I've met the soulmate. So I thought that sounds good. So I had a taster of coaching, loved it, and off I went. So that's how I embarked on the coaching journey. So now I get to help people. But the nice thing is, it's much more empowering than litigation, which is essentially damage limitation. Like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
you're getting divorced, you're upset, you've got loads of money. Let's try and make it a little bit less bad. But you'll never really leave divorce with a spring in your step. You'll probably feel a bit broken. Um, so yeah, what I do now is more empowering and inspiring for both parties.
Oh, that's lovely. That sounds
Yeah, that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
good choice.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a good choice.
Thank you.
Let's go right back. What's one of your earliest memories of wanting more than the normal life, or a path that was laid out for you? Where do you think that drive came from?
Oh, I love it, Casey. It's a great life coaching question, that. Let's go right back. Well, I think firstly, I was very lucky because I had a dad who was an entrepreneur. So my sort of role model was someone who was always home by 6, who made, fortunately for him, quite a lot more money than these lawyers who seemed to me to be killing themselves. And it all sounds very prestigious and law's fascinating and great if you've got a brain and you like helping people. But I thought, crikey, there are easier ways to make money if you want to, and there are maybe different ways to help people. So I think having had that entrepreneurial dad always gave me a sense is there's more than this, you know? So beyond the conventional realms of success, consulting, law, medicine, I knew there was more. And I guess maybe it's genetics or maybe it's just nurture through my dad, but I suppose we're all quite entrepreneurial. We've got initiative, we're quite creative, quite commercial. And I have a twin who also left, the commercial property world and set up her own interior design practice. And I'd say she really hit the ground running with that because it played to all those strengths,
Yeah.
creativity, people skills, commerciality, common sense, all that jazz. So I think that knowledge was always inbuilt. And when I was thinking about careers years ago, um, I did think what would be good in terms of the value of having a family, what would fit well around that. And I initially thought journalism, which to be honest probably would have been the ultimate calling for me. And that was because I knew that it fitted with some important values. And funnily enough, when I first looked at law, because I got a really good degree, and my dad said, "Oh, you should try law. It makes sense. You can always change." Um, I felt a bit sick for some reason, even though I knew that I'd probably be really good at it because it fitted my analytical skills and written skills and people skills and stuff. I felt a bit nauseous, which is always a giveaway, let's be honest. There's always that sort of, seed moment, which is quite revealing. And it's because I'm deep thinking and analytical, but I just sensed I needed a bit more balance, rather than leaning into that in that sort of in the fullness of that, you know. And as one of my friends said, just because you've got a brain, it doesn't mean you've got to use it. Not that I don't use my brain in my work, but I don't want to be analyzing statute and using my analytical skills in such an intense way. I'd rather apply them to
Yeah.
people. So yeah, those were the
And
giveaways.
now you can kind of like see the other lawyers and be like, guys, it's much better over this side.
Well,
Come
they're all my
over.
clients now. People, lawyers, management consultants, barristers. So yeah. So I guess it sort of the different exposures I'd had to success in its different forms helped me realize, well, there are different forms of success. What does it mean to you? Which is essentially what I do now as a success coach, help people work out their definition of success. And that's where true happiness and fulfillment and often wealth abounds, actually. So happy days.
Love it. You've worked with some high performers across industries. So in your experience, what's the biggest mindset block holding people back from living in full alignment with who they really are?
Ooh, easy, the F word, fear. I think fear can be positively disabling if we don't know how to harness it, which of course, helpfully, we're not taught at school amongst, the sex education and putting condoms on bananas and all that jazz. No one teaches us the really important stuff. So yeah, I think fear, because we're all programmed, going back to the caveman days, to be on high alert for enemy attack. So the brain is programmed to look for the negative, to be hyper vigilant, and to essentially go into fight, flight, or freeze mode when stressed, which is great when we're, genuinely threatened by danger, like someone following us down an alleyway with a knife. But when we're not, the brain sort of often responds in a similar way. So we start engaging in horribly stressful distortions like catastrophizing and black and white thinking and labeling ourselves, I'm a loser, I always do this. And I've noticed that no matter how successful people are, and my clients are, they're bright, high performers, we all struggle with these things. People just don't talk about it. And they sort of almost lift the veil with me and look quite embarrassed, like, oh gosh, it's terribly embarrassing. And I'm like, hell no, all the people you're working with feel the same. You guys just don't talk about it. And then
Yeah.
I get to teach people the tools to flip that switch and sort of intercept stress before it hijacks you, you know. So I'd say fear. Fear is what keeps people stuck. It keeps them small. It creates limiting beliefs that make you feel, I can't do this, it's not possible. And that's where I come in, because I help people understand their brains better, and I help them tune into who they are and what they want. And then I give them the tools and the simple steps to move them from where they are now to where they want to be. So it's not rocket science.
Did you ever experience that fear that held you back? And then how did you work out how to overcome it?
Okay, do you want the honest answer here, Cacey?
Yeah.
Not with careers, no. I guess I was lucky because I'd always done very well at school, and for some reason, probably because my mum's got quite overdeveloped people skills, probably, let's say, I always had quite a sense of, I suppose, what my strengths were and my interests and passions. And I guess our parents really nurtured that in us. So the career stuff was easy. I'd say I learned I had to lean into that more, what you're talking about romantically. So let's just say I've had quite a lot of experience in love, which is great. It's like 20 years of relationships. So for me, I've had to navigate sort of stresses or heartaches or disappointments, yeah, more in the romantic realm. And I always say to clients, it's slightly hilarious, they've often got brilliant love lives. And I'm like, well done with that, because love is way harder. It's way more of a lottery. Whereas career success and career change is actually very easy once you know the secret formula and you have the structure. It's very hard to unsee what you've seen once you learn the core components. So yeah, I've had to learn those tools more in a love sense, I think. So, and actually even career-wise, to be honest, every day I'm applying these tools myself. It's almost like I have like a little 10-year-old with, pom-poms. So I literally coach myself internally when I hear that inner saboteur, which we all have, like, I can't do this podcast because I don't know how to set up a podcast, or, all those negative inner monologues that we all struggle with. I literally coach myself out of that so constantly. It's become like breathing now.
I love that. I think I was wondering, like, being a divorce lawyer, did that give you any trust issues in relationships because you're seeing all this stuff play out?
That's a great question. Funnily enough, it didn't, because I guess firstly, not to kind of minimize, because it's obviously, I'm very empathetic and it's upsetting seeing people going through hell. It's obviously no one gets married planning to divorce, but it's also quite surreal because, you're collating all this documentation. So you're seeing, like, the marriage pictures and reading the stories of how they met, and then you're seeing all the really juicy, horrible stuff that goes on. So it almost seems quite surreal, like it's literally laid out in a timeline, like a schedule. So
Yeah.
it's almost quite hard to engage with on a deeper level. Because it almost doesn't seem real when you see it laid out on paper like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I think I was very blessed because I'm a real daddy's girl. My dad's an amazing man, and my brothers are amazing guys. So I think that always, whatever happens, in love, we've all been through highs and lows. I guess my um, framework is men are great. So even if I've been with some, let's say, slightly less desirable types of guys, some of them have been great. Um, I've never been one of those people that's like, all men are evil and I'm screwed, so I'm quite lucky in that way.
Yeah.
You've got a twin, and you mentioned earlier. Do you think that has like an impact on your success?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say yes, I'd say it does. So, as an identical twin, you're technically genetic clones, apparently, but for environmental differences. So, in a sense, that means you could look at it cynically and say you've always got a competitor who like shows you how good you can be. But luckily, because we look really similar, we're really similar academically. It's never been like, damn, she's the pretty one or the bright one. We've always been, equals, and there's never been any jealousy. So, like at uni, for instance, if I saw Emma like getting like 92% in English essays, which she did, I'd be like, oh, I really need to up my game. I'm getting 68. So that genuinely made me see what was possible for me. Like
Yeah.
it really did. Because we are, innately the same at root in terms of how we were born. So I think it's helped in that way. I think also just having a twin is a real gift because you've always got someone who innately understands you. So they empathize when you're feeling vulnerable or stressed. They champion you because they understand you. So it's almost like having a shadow, but like with like a shining shadow that's like, you can do this. And we all need to feel understood to succeed, which again is a big part of coaching. It's not just like coaching is helping you achieve your goals. You have to feel a connection with that person that you're being vulnerable with and sharing your vulnerabilities with. And you have to believe that they believe in you, and you have to believe in your clients. Like I innately see people's strengths and beauty, and I really see what they're capable of. So I think having a twin has been like, yeah, probably quite a big part of success, but also like just having been very fortunate with our parents. They're very positive and, the sky's the limit, go for it, always championed us versus people who are like, what are you doing? Like, you can never succeed. I mean, yeah, it's just a real blessing to have had that kind of upbringing.
So you've built a business around helping others find clarity and freedom. What's something you've learned about yourself through helping others transform?
Such a good question. What have I learnt about myself? Kind of cheesy. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I guess I'm sort of a deeply compassionate person, which you kind of have to be because a big part of true connection, whether you're a therapist or a coach, is being genuine. It's actually one of the core tenets of connection, even in the therapy world. So yeah, I guess I've realized it sounds so cheesy, but that I'm like a deeply genuine person. Like I can't really be anything other than myself. So that helps build connection, but I also deeply care about people, whether it's like, the girl who served me coffee or my clients. And that helps them because, they're like, Mel really believed in me and that helps, or she really, I don't know, she's full of joy or whatever. I'm very lucky because my clients are genuinely amazing people. So it's not hard to feel joyful. I sometimes feel like I should be paying them, to be honest. Um, but I've also learned, with any superpower, we all have superpowers. There's a shadow side. So that empathy has got me into trouble, for example, in relationships. Like, oh, maybe you're the wrong side of fucked up. I can handle this. It's okay. You came to the right girl. And then it's like, no, actually, you learn, actually, you got to know when to walk away and you've got to learn as an empath to have boundaries and not to put others ahead of yourself too much. And even in a business sense, a lot of coaches, therapists can be prone to codependency, putting others' needs ahead of your own. So as a younger coach 12 years ago, I probably sort of let coaching sessions run over, or yes, I'll speak to you at weekends. And coaching's been good because it's taught me to develop sort of really strong boundaries to contract strongly with people so that it's ethical for them and me because I didn't want to become a crutch. I'm here to empower people and help them fly. Um, so yeah, I guess it's helped me become a sort of, I guess I've always been like stable and fairly healthy, but yeah, it's helped me to um I guess sort of get more balance with that empathy sort of superpower.
And how do you define success? Like, what is your definition of success?
Do you want a cheesy Shakespeare quote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hit us with it.
Well, I would say, yeah, this above all to thine own self be true, which is from Hamlet, and it's very cheesy. But I think all success starts with truth, and we all have a different truth, which is where it all goes wrong for so many of us. So many of my clients will say in session one, I went into whatever investment banking because my dad said I should, or because my teacher said I should. whenever you hear a should, it often signals a misaligned with the true self. So coaching isn't about shoulds and obligations. It's about, what do you really feel? What do you really want? What truly energizes you and motivates you? And, I'm not going to be all like cliche and unrealistic. It's not like, oh, cool, you want to be an astronaut? Go for it, follow your dream. A, it may not be possible. And B, there might be some roles which aren't going to meet your financial liabilities if you have a family, etc. But well, again, once you break it down across the four core parts of aligned career decision making, you can absolutely hit all four. And those four parts connect you very firmly to your truth, not your mom's, not your brother's, not your husband's, your truth. And once you hit that truth bullseye, that's where the magic happens. But often we're not given the space in life, whether at school, people aren't even trained to listen effectively to help us connect with what our truth is. And that's what I do. I'm kind of almost like a truth seer and a truth teller, except I don't really tell, I listen and then I guide. So yeah, that's the sweet spot. It's what's your truth? Asking the right questions to help people understand who they are, what makes them tick. And once you know that, again, it's actually quite hard not to make change. Even seemingly radical change is quite easy when you've broken it down and you have the steps for change.
So it's often called, I guess, the genius zone, working in your genius zone as well. This, like, working with your truth. That's what I'm imagining. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, how did you find your truth? Because you wouldn't have had a coach. You couldn't coach yourself because you didn't know about it. So how did you? What was the moment that made you go, hang on a minute, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. This is my truth. How did you come to that realization?
These questions are superb, guys. I'm very impressed. Maybe you should get into coaching on the side. I would say there wasn't just one moment. There were probably about four. Firstly, I think for whatever reason, I've always been quite intuitive, probably because my mum was like a very feeling person. She always used to read to us a lot at school, as children. I always loved English and analyzing human behavior. So I guess I was always very at ease with feeling. And I think often people who are of that ilk can be quite intuitive. So I was always quite connected to my feelings, I suppose, which gave me confidence when I was repeatedly, in the end with law, feeling quite like, oh, something's feeling off. Like I'm in the car park outside work on a Sunday again, coming in to do work again. I'm cancelling dates again. And I could hear that alarm bell. You want to get married and have children one day? Like, how the heck is this going to happen if you can't even meet men? And to be really honest, I was looking at, remain nameless, but maybe the odd female boss and thinking nothing about you inspires me. In fact, yeah, I do not want to be like you in any way, shape, or form. So I couldn't really, I couldn't really find a role model to connect to, and I could sense that there were just some misaligns. So in those, I always say frustration signals an unmet need. So in that moment of sort of emotion and frustration, I was like, what's this telling me? I need more work-life balance. I need more fun. Shame on me. I want to have fun. I don't want to be canceling fun plans. And I guess I got curious about that. And I also noticed I was in quite a toxic relationship during the law days. It worried me because I thought I haven't even been able to connect with the fact that I was basically dating a complete arsehole because I was so busy working. And that really concerned me. And in those moments that we all have in life, those really hard moments where you basically are struggling to function at work, you have to be perfect in law. You have to be superb all the time. And that's not true for all professions, but it is for some. And I could just feel that's not healthy. Doesn't, you should be able to have space to feel and to connect with yourself. How would this work long term? And that's what I see in some of my very high powered clients. Even if they're brilliant at their jobs, they're like, this isn't sustainable. So I'd say just natural intuition helped. I think initially, yeah, as I said, I was really drawn to journalism. So I'd always, I guess, been quite interested in more creative fields, and I'd always liked the idea of being an entrepreneur like my dad and having that work-life balance and potential for wealth if you go into something that's going to, have that option. And I also lost a brother at 17 to cancer. And that, I mean, there's nothing like death in any shape or form, but especially premature death to wake you up to what life's all about. It sounds cheesy, but it just really makes you think you gotta go out there and live every day like it's your last. So that's how I live. I'm just like, yeah, just do it, life's too short.
Speaking about intuition, we talk a lot, pretty much every episode on this podcast about the feather, the brick, and the bus. Do you notice that at all in your clients? As in, like, you kind of coach them through. I think that's the a whisper from the world happening, and you don't want that brick to come and smash you in the face next. You kind of coach them along. Have you heard that before?
No, I haven't. I'm not totally with you, but it sounds fascinating. Maybe you could
So
explain
the
it more.
feather is like the little tickle on the ear saying like, you know, it's time to move, to change your direction. You're not on your true path. And then you don't listen to that because it's just a feather, and you keep on going about your business. And then a brick comes and hits you, as in like you have some kind of accident that just stops you from doing what you're doing. And then if you don't listen again, then a serious thing will happen.
The bus comes.
Yeah, the bus comes. And you're literally laid out for weeks, months.
That's brilliant. I'm going to steal that. What was the question pertaining to the feather broken bus?
Do you witness it in your clients? And
Totally.
are you like, look, this is happening.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a message from the world guiding you onto your path.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, when clients approach me, they've already experienced the tickle on the ear, the feather, or maybe the brick, or maybe the bus. They've definitely experienced one or some or all. And they've generally hit a wall whereby they're like, I can no longer ignore this, whether it's stress, burnout, their wife saying, honey, I'm not enjoying being married to you anymore. You need to sort this out, your career or wider life stuff. So there's definitely been tickles whereby they've really, what I tend to find if I'm generalizing is they're like, there's something not right here, but or maybe they minimize like, oh, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just being silly, maybe it's not a big thing. But I've learned, and I'm sure you guys have, that small things in life, whether it's a niggle in a relationship or career, they're usually the big things, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they'll mention the feathers if you like, maybe even the bricks, things like burnout, or having to, I don't know, take time off work, or maybe they don't get to the brick, maybe it's nothing obvious, but they're just feeling very anxious or working very long hours, or they're just really bored by their work, or they're like, I hate my boss, or I feel like I'm sleepwalking through life, or the only reason I went into this is because my dad said I should. I literally have zero interest in finance or numbers. It's almost hilarious. It's so misaligned. Bus moments, I suppose that would be more, if people have been like signed off sick, or if they're really struggling with mental health issues, because I do think that if we're misaligned and if we don't listen to the tickles in the ear, the feathers, it really can spark mental illness if left. And we're not taught how to connect with our values, the things that we need to be connecting with that make us tick. And even not knowing our values can leave us very misaligned, whether in relationships, in career. And I think that can really spark things like depression, anxiety, and worse if left unresolved. So I really help people explore the tickles. That's how it starts. But usually what I find is even within the first session, there's such a relief because they're almost like, oh, phew, those tickles are actually big things. Oh my God, thank God, I thought I was screwed. And actually, they've spoken it out, they've acknowledged it. And then from there, the rest is quite easy because it's quite structured. And it helps you take control of all of those anxieties, really, and affect change in quite a sort of supportive, seamless way.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. I'm glad we could share that as well. So that's good.
Yeah,
we've noticed a theme in our guests. The moment they give themselves permission to let go, something better always comes in. So has there been a time in your life where you surrendered change and your surrender changed everything?
Surrender, I love that word. Gosh, moment of surrender. Again, I would probably honestly talk about relationships more. And probably knowing my values because of the work I do, the things I need to be connecting with to feel happy day to day, that's really supported me in surrendering. So, for example, I was dating an American for sort of 4.5 years. And I was deeply in love with him, but he ended up being quite troubled, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if someone wants help. But anyway, he didn't want help, so unfortunately, it would have brought us both down in a pretty bad way. So that was obviously very upsetting. We've all been through heartbreak, no doubt. Yes, so surrendering when you feel a depth of feeling is hard because it's almost like, I remember when I had a heartbreak when I was much younger, I remember thinking this is so weird. It's like turning off a love tap. There's all this love I feel for this guy, and you just have to turn it off. Like this ain't moving forward. It feels terribly unnatural because, normally we go with our feelings, don't we? So I guess I've learned to surrender in the sort of, we can't control the things we can't control. And I guess relationships in particular, by definition, you are relating. It's two people, isn't it? So surrendering and trusting, cheesy as it sounds, like the universe, like higher forces, and being clear on who you are and what you need, values wise, whether in terms of what you're looking for in a partner, or where you want to be living. In those moments, I've sort of, what's helped surrender is connecting with my values. So, for example, when I broke up with this American guy, I was so clear on what I needed to be happy in a lifestyle sense. I was like, right, well, I don't want to be in England. It's going to be Cape Town or Ireland, which probably sounds quite random, but it's because I know exactly what I need to be happy in terms of a place. Small city near mountains, and beaches, ideally, and with visa, accessibility.
Yeah.
So being able to like go to Cape Town after like quite a major heartbreak, for instance, really supported the surrender process because I felt so at peace in the mountains, and that was a very healing environment because nature's a value of mine and adventure's a value of mine, and the people there are sort of kindred spirits, are adventurous and quite sort of evolved, I'd say, on a soul level, as people near nature often are. So yes, I think being connected to my values at difficult moments has really supported the surrender process. And also, I've done a lot of reading, obviously, like self-help reading over the years as a coach, which has really helped me to develop the tools which really help you at stressful moments, that I teach my clients, like 5-minute mindset mastery hacks, stress busters, help you reframe challenges and stress so that you see things as growth opportunities rather than kind of soul crushers. So rather
Yeah.
than thinking in black and white ways like I'm screwed, I thought I was going to marry that guy, you're like, actually, what's the opportunity in this problem? Okay, I've learned that if someone doesn't want help and they're really struggling mentally, that could be a deal breaker. I've learned that I need someone who's open about personal development, who would fight for me in the way that I'd fight for a partner. So yeah, I think that sort of personal development work and my sort of clarity around my values has really helped me surrender. I guess it's developed quite a spirituality in a sense.
You've mentioned values quite a few times there, and that's a really interesting thing because I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks, actually. How does a person get clear on values?
Good question. I mean, I'm obsessed with them, as you can probably tell. They are so important. I would say they are like the very bedrock of happiness and success. Um, how do they get clear on values? Well, I mean, without being salesy, ideally have a session with me because you can get clear to an extent, but I ask a lot of very wacky questions, not unlike some of yours, I might add, very thought-provoking questions, which help you bust through the shoulds and the confusion straight to your heart and your soul. So just to give you a couple of examples of wacky questions, I might say, if you were floating above your own funeral, what would you want to hear people saying about you? Like if you could start a podcast on anything, who would you want to be interviewing? So questions that really open up possibility and really bust through limiting beliefs, and take people way outside their comfort zones, quite pseudo existential stuff. So there are loads of questions like that I ask people, and whether they sign up for life coaching with me or career change coaching, or career development, whatever they're doing with me, we always do the value session in session 2 because it is just so essential. It's the bedrock of clarity. Without knowing who you are and what you need to be happy, your 8 to 12 core values, it's quite difficult to notice where the gaps are and to make change. And without that clarity, you lack the confidence to make change. So you have to have the clarity first before you
Yeah.
can make that change. And once you've seen what you need to be happy, you're energized because when you're connected with your values, you're energized, you're motivated, you're excited. So change suddenly becomes easier. Whereas when you're swimming around on your own and you're like, I'm really confused, what's wrong with me? You're not even sure what your values are. You don't have a framework for happiness. So it's really hard to make change because you're just like, I need to change, but I don't know how. Like, who am I and what do I need? So it's absolutely critical.
Yeah, we found a helpful thing to come up with our values is we actually did an exercise of doing our obituary live on Facebook, like the Facebook Live. Did our
Amazing.
obituaries.
Well, there we are. The death theme is the Great Awakener. It's hilarious. It wakes you up. It's funny that we dread death and it's such a taboo because it's actually okay. It's not a gift if you're staring death in the face, but there's huge learning to be found in
Yeah,
that
it
stuff.
makes you take action and work towards those things that you want in life, doesn't it? If we
Totally,
didn't have an end
absolutely.
date, we'd be like, oh, I'll do it someday.
I like it. An end date sounds so much more palatable, like you're an apple that's going to go off from.
Use
An
by
end
date,
date.
but we don't know when it is. So that's the
Exactly,
tricky
quite,
thing.
yeah.
You gotta that creates even more importance because we better do it today.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and joking aside, I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect at all, but I really live my life like that. So if someone said to me, which wouldn't remotely surprise me, like, Mel, you got 6 weeks left to live, I honestly would feel like zero regret. I'd be like, I've lived so fully, I have no regrets. But that's because I live like I'm dying. Weird does that sound? I do.
But that's good. Yeah, maybe that's what everyone needs to do. On that note as well, what practices or rituals help you keep aligned?
Oh, good question. I guess there are a few things. I guess I've got better at listening to my body. So, for example, especially if you're like quite academic, like some of my clients, like lawyers, management consultants, we can get quite in our heads and intellectualize. I should do this. I must do this. I must perform. And we're just so used to doing, and achieving. It's like a treadmill of constant sort of movement. So I've learned to kind of listen to my body more, especially when I'm stressed. Like sometimes I'll ask myself, like, what does my body need? Like, if my body could speak, what would it say? Or if my
I
stress
like
could
that
speak,
question.
yeah, what would it say? And it busts through the mental intellectualizing to actually it would say just have a lie-in. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I found that quite helpful. I also like well teach clients stuff that I've learnt myself. Really helpful like reframing tools. Like I teach them like a 5-step, very simple cognitive behavioral therapy tool, which basically helps you bust through um, the falsity of stress of often the falsity of stressful thoughts to the truth. So let's say I don't know. Oh, this was very relatable. People who are online dating and their brain is flooding with stress, they start engaging in cognitive distortions like there are no good men left, I'm screwed, I'll be a spinster forever, all that nice stuff. um those simple tools can help you really challenge those stressful thoughts and get to the truth. For example, one of the questions is, what hard evidence do I have for this? And it's got to be like judge proof, like you're going to courtroom and she's going to throw you out and humiliate you unless you've got a really good evidence for that stressful thought. Or like what's an alternative way of looking at this? What would I say to a best friend in this situation? And that question, that last one, is very powerful because we're never as scathing to our best friends as we are to ourselves, are we? We'd never
No.
say to a best friend, you're such a loser, you haven't done enough today. But we would to
I might
ourselves.
say it to you.
Are you guys in a
But
relationship?
that's great. That's
Yeah.
great to have
I
that
thought
kind
so.
of mirror. That's great to have that kind of mirror though.
Totally. So those are just some examples of things that I do. And there's also something else I love called a probability. So whenever you're stressed and obviously the brain focuses on the problem, the negative, that puts us into victim zone. You look for the opportunity, which lifts us out of victim zone into empowerment control zone. Like, what's the opportunity for growth here? So let's say, I don't know, let's say you're nervous about doing your first, I don't know, public speaking gig. You might be like, shit, I can't do this. I'm going to fuck up. What's the opportunity? It's an opportunity to be vulnerable, and to practice and to improve, and that really flicks the sort of stress response into a sort of more growth mindset, empowered response.
I
Yeah.
love that.
I was listening to a
absolutely love that.
podcast recently and I forget who it was, but the person on there always asked himself first before reacting, am I tired or am I hungry? And if
That
he
was
was
definitely said by
either
a
of those,
man.
if he was either of those two, he would not take action on the thoughts that he was, leading to. He'd
Yeah.
make sure that he was always well rested and his stomach was full before he'd make a decision on things.
That's brilliant. That's great. Bet that saved him from some difficult situations slash arguments.
How important is sleep to success, do you think?
Oh, I think it's so important. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like the bedrock of well-being, isn't it? Um, yeah, I mean, it's like hormones, PMT can leave you feeling really out of sorts as a woman, and I think sleep's the same. Yeah, I think it's everything. Really important.
What about ownership of your own time?
You mean generally in life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I love it. Freedom is one of my absolutely leading values. No matter how tempting job offers were, for me, like once you got a taste of freedom, and I think for many people, if you can make it work financially, it's amazing. I mean, I've been able to live in several different countries, like America, Cape Town, France, Spain, because I've had that freedom and I get to sort of design my day really exactly how I want. I get to technically decide who I work with. I generally work with superbly inspiring, wonderful, positive, charismatic clients. I get to develop my business and think I want to do more workshops. Let's lean into that. Or I want to come on more podcasts, or I want to go into schools and develop programs. Like, I have so much creative freedom. So I have freedom in my time, over my ideas. It's on me how much work I get done. I have the freedom to take breaks and go on holidays if I want. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I like freedom a lot.
Yeah.
On that, how much anxiety do you get over the pressure of having to create your own day? Because something I've been personally working through recently, and I did day one yesterday, was we've come from a background of having a lot of staff, lots of stuff to do every single day. We were rushing from one thing to the next. And now we have this lifestyle where we really pick and choose what we have to do with our days. But that has come with having to be disciplined, and also for me, not so much Cacey, having the anxiety of like, I should be doing more constantly, like constantly. And yesterday
Yeah.
was my day one of just doing what I want every hour, like having, going to the gym, then a focused hour of work, and then going for a walk, and then doing like being purposeful with my day, but then not having that anxiety, letting go of that anxiety and thinking, I should do this every day. That was day one. I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then I'm going to do it the next
For
day.
you. Yeah, so the anxiety, as you say, like again, with every almost like superpower or gift, I think there's often like a shadow side. Like, so freedom is great, but often it conflicts with that value around stability. And most of us have stability as a value. And I'd say pretty much every client I have has freedom and stability as a value. And they can feel slightly at odds. So you have the freedom to design your day, but then you're like, oh, I feel a bit anxious. There's no boss telling me what to do. I don't have a manager saying, you're doing a great job, Mel, or you need to be bucking up here. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. Like there definitely are challenges that come with it. And also like financially, sometimes it's really hard to say how much you earn because your income can be quite volatile. I might get 7 clients one month and less clients another month. I might have 5 workshops and make a bumper figure and then, be more worried about money other times. So yeah, there are always those different sides, aren't there? I think what helps me is again, knowing my values helps. I know what matters to me, and I'm very connected with my values. So I suppose I enjoy pretty much everything I do, whether and I'm good at making decisions because I know the shape of what I need in every decision, whether it's what kind of gym I want or what kind of man I want to date, or that makes it sound like I've nailed the love stuff, which, but yeah, I think we're nearly there now. I hope so. Jesus Christ. Anyway, don't mention any names. Anyway, so I think because I'm very connected with my values, I always have quite a sense of peace because I'm energized by so much of what I do because my life is so designed. I mean, I was in a dentist chair in Cape Town and it was funny. The dentist was sort of drooling. Ironically, she was like, "God, you're so lucky. You get to kind of yeah, kind of design your life. You're so lucky." And yeah, I guess when you do have that freedom to design your life, it comes from a place of great intentionality, and that's a place of real like source and abundance, isn't it? Because you get to really be intentional. Think, what do I really feel like? What do I need today? And as long as you're earning enough money, and I've been very blessed in that way. I initially started working for quite different companies and optimizing the stability value, so I had money coming in from different sources whilst growing my business. I've been very blessed that I suppose I've done well enough to know that I can lean into what my body needs, going to the gym or sleeping in a bit, whilst sort of feeling that sense of progress. But again, even when I lived in Chamonix in the French Alps years ago, part of me, part of the inner saboteur might have been like, "Oh, you naughty girl, you shouldn't be going and living in the Alps with a handsome Frenchman." He was one of the better ones, by the way. My mum had a few concerns though. She was like, "Oh, he's terribly scruffy, darling." I was like, "He's very emotionally evolved. Don't you worry." Um, but yeah, even that, joking aside, I had a really strong intuition that having that freedom in the mountains and the freedom of being with that free spirited guy would be really nurturing. So I think that really strong intuition that I have has really helped me, and it really helps my clients as well because I just that's one of the real strengths. So I think when you're really connected to yourself and what you need, you feel less guilty. And again, it comes back to values because it helps you design your everyday with confidence and clarity, as well as making big decisions and segueing through the stress that comes with transition with greater ease because you've got the guide, your guiding North Star, your purpose, and you know what you need to be happy. So you're kind of feeding your soul with kind of intentional life design, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
funny,
love
like
it.
when people ask you like what you did today, like whenever I turn up to pick my daughter up from school, there's always this dad that asks like, "Oh, so what did you do today?" And I'm like, "Well, today I had a podcast and and then I went for a walk," and then he just looks at me like, "Well, it's all right for some."
Hey, he's dead jealous.
Yeah, but I can't believe what I say sometimes. I'm like, "Really? That was me? I did that today? That's ridiculous."
As in because you can't believe how lucky you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
totally. And also, even if it's just like one thing you've done, we're kind of programmed to think you must be at a desk 9 to 5 to be successful. Well, let's be honest, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Largely, you might do a podcast and be like, God, I felt so alive. Oh my gosh. Like that's success,
That's
for some
success.
people, right? It's what makes you feel alive. And that doesn't have to be at the expense of earning a salary. And these are some of the bullshit limiting beliefs that we're fed or that we believe or we've been taught by our parents. You really can have it all. You just got to break it down.
That's it. Right, on that note, we are going to have to leave it there. But first of all, before we go, where can people find you if they want to know more?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, so it's Melanie Pritchard Coaching. And my website is melanie-pritchard.com. Yeah, those are the
We'll
two.
put that in the show notes.
Yeah, amazing. And final question that we ask everyone. So, Melanie, are you successful?
I'm successful in the way that I would want to be. Definitely, yeah. I'm definitely very aligned with who I am and what makes me tick, what makes me feel alive.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's what we want to hear. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you on the podcast. I feel like we only just started to scratch the surface there. I was like, I want to get involved a lot more. So,
It's
but
great,
yeah,
great to meet you both. It was really fun. I
yeah,
love the
thank
F
you.
word fun, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on. We will see you again soon.
See you later.
Bye.